Hi my friends, welcome back to another tutorial. I'm inside my kitchen today. I hope it's alright. I am going to paint a beautiful sunset this week. It's going to be full of colour. So lots of purples, pinks, violets. I'm going to paint a bluebell field in a sunset. Beautiful colours, so lots of different colours going on today. You could use this as a sunset tutorial. You might even get some hints and tips on mixing nice colours on the canvas without avoiding greens, that kind of stuff. So I hope you learned something nice from this today. It's going to be a really fun tutorial. Let me show you what I have here set up on my easel. Okay, I have my board. Now, there's the photograph. I don't know if you can see that or not, but a really nice sunset with bluebells. Lovely colourful palette today. I have titanium white, cadmium yellow pale, naples yellow, some burnt umber, burnt sienna, lamp black, some phaylo blue, cobalt blue, vice versa, a little crimson, magenta and cadmium red. Now the surface I'm painting on today is, I think it's 18 by 14, it's an MDF board, okay? I primed it 3 times, completely smooth. Okay, completely flat, no grain whatsoever, and this is a 1-inch thick MDF board. Okay, you can see it there. So I just primed the sides as well. A nice thick heavy board. Okay, this will give us some beautiful soft blending effects. So no grain, just completely smooth. I thought it would be nice to try this for a change. So that's it, that's my setup. I have some turpentine, brushes, some tissue, all the usual stuff. I'm not going to oil this board. I'm just going to paint straight onto this because it's so smooth. We don't really need help with the paint moving around. So yeah, this is going to be a bit of fun. Nice colourful painting for you this week. So there we go. Let me turn this around. This is going to be a lot of fun, a lot of colour, full of colour. So grab your stuff and follow me along if you want to learn to paint a nice simple sunset, but we're going to go into some detail with this. So taking our time, all right? Don't go anywhere. Okay, let's start with the sky. Beautiful, warm sky, and I won't need any mark for horizon line, I don't think. We could just use our brush and some paint, okay? So let's go ahead and dampen our brushes. Let's dampen that up. Just take a little bit of thinners in your brush, not too wet, because this is very smooth. It'll need very little thinners anyway, okay? And if you can notice the sky, there's a lovely purple up in the sky. Okay, I'm going to start with that. I'm going to take some titanium white, some alizarin crimson, and I'll take a little hint of phaylo blue. Okay, so I'm going to make a nice warm plum. More crimson. I'm going to aim for more of a pinky mauve. All right, so let's have a look at that now. That's not bad, and it may be a little thin because this is so smooth. I don't want to see kind of the brush strokes too much. That may be a little thin, so I'm going to just thicken the paint slightly by adding a touch more paint. Okay, phaylo blue, alizarin crimson, and I'm just going to fix the exposure because the exposure seems to be going down slightly because of the light, the sun getting bright and getting dark outside. So the exposure seems to be going up and down just very slightly on the camera. I do apologise, but let's see how we can go with this. It's not too bad. So I'm mixing that nice warm sort of a plum. There we go, a nice warm plum. Just for now. It's slightly thicker on my brush. Just going to put that along just here and there, and I'm going to start lightening it as it comes down. I'm going to take more white, a little crimson, and a hint of naples yellow, and that's going to just give me a kind of a soft pink. Does that make sense? A nice soft kind of a pink, just as it comes down. I don't want to put too much in this because there's a lot of red in these clouds, so I don't want to overdo this colour. Now, just going to clean my brush and I'm going to just darken it ever so slightly with some more blue on top. I'll take a hint of phaylo and actually a hint of cobalt, and then a hint of crimson. I just want to make that a little bit more on the bluey side, up higher, okay? Now you can try and simplify this if you like. You don't have to use all these fancy kind of mixes if you don't like. It's completely up to yourself. Okay, there we go. And that's not bad. Let me just sit back now. Keep sitting back and taking a look at the colours you have. Okay, that's not bad. I'm going to clean my brush and we're going to start going into some nice rich reds and pinks and oranges and all that kind of thing. What I will do is, I don't know if I have a pencil handy here actually. I'll take a small brush, okay? Small pointy brush. And I'm just going to put a very rough line across where I think it looks around halfway to me, but I may go just slightly below half. It's just a very loose reference line for the horizon, that's all. Make life a bit easier, isn't that right? Now, we're going to start warming all of this. I'm going to start going into some crimson, and then maybe a hint of cadmium red, and a little white. Just for now, let me just take a look at this. And I'm going to put that colour over here. I'm just simply looking at the photograph and just try your best to copy the colours and where the colours are coming in, because we can soften all of this together, you see? Soften it right in, right up there. So we're going to have a lovely soft sky. And I'm going to keep going with this. Just on the right hand side, I'm going to take some crimson, a little hint of Naples yellow, and I'm going to come down to my horizon line with that colour. This MDF board is really lovely and smooth. It's such a joy to work on because it's just different. It's much different to a canvas. You may find it a little tricky at the beginning to to work with MDF, but it really is fantastic. You should try it. Now I'm going to give my brush a quick wipe on tissue just to get that colour off. I'm going to start warming it over here, so lots more red, okay? Cadmium red, a little crimson, and a hint of cadmium yellow. Now let's take a look at this. Okay, that's not bad. I think we'll go with that. I'm going to soften this just up. And remember, this is all just the background colour, okay? I'll leave my clouds until the very end. I'm just concentrating on filling in that nice background colour. So again, cadmium red, a little crimson, and some cadmium yellow pale, okay? Then we're going to get from nice rich orange down towards this side. And then I'm going to start adding crimson with a little white as it comes across. I just want to kind of soften it slightly. And I'm going to just kind of leave it blend outwards and upwards, okay? We want a nice soft background for all of this. So a lovely transition from one colour to the next, all the way across. Look at that. So that's coming on quite nice now, isn't it? So already begin to see our beautiful sunset coming to life, even as it is. So I'm cleaning my brush again, and let's take a look now. Let's take a look at some sunlight, perhaps down at the very end. Let's go for some cadmium yellow. Let's just put some cadmium yellow in towards the bottom here, okay? And soften it outwards. We have a beautiful glow just on one side of the landscape, and maybe pull it across ever so slightly, just like that, okay? So you can start to see everything coming together now, can't you? So I'm kind of pretty happy with that now as my sky so far. I think what I might do is soften some white and pink into the bottom, only just to give me that lovely kind of misty feeling. So a very light kind of a mauve, just across here. I just want to kind of, I want this to sort of almost soften into the landscape underneath, okay? And maybe a hint of Naples yellow with white under here. That'll just allow me to soften them right down into the landscape, you see? Creating a lovely soft kind of mist off in the distance. Now, I'm going to switch brushes. Let me find a nice little brush here now to go with. I think we'll go with, now, whatever brush you use, try and use a nice soft brush, okay? This is a little hard now, it's a little firm. I might dampen it and just rub it on some tissue, just to see if I can soften the bristles a little bit, because if they're a little bit on the firm side from previous paint and all that kind of thing, it may be a little tricky to get nice soft lines, especially on this MDF. So I'm just looking now to see if there's anything else there that I can use instead. And I don't know if you can hear my dog out there barking away, going crazy. I think I'll try this soft little red one here, okay? Dampen that. Now let's get some clouds in, nice deep coloured clouds over here. I can see some red anyway. So let's get some cadmium red, some crimson. I'm just using paint on its own, okay? But a thin layer, not a very thick layer. There's no thinners in this. I'm going to take some Naples yellow, and the Naples yellow will really thicken this up and make it nice and pasty. So let's start with this colour now as a base, and then we can work on this colour. So let's see, a little bit of crimson. Let me just get my reference photograph back up there. Little crimson and a tiny hint of cobalt blue, I think. Tiniest hint. That'll give me a nice warm, rich kind of a dull kind of a pink. Let me try this. So I'm basically just going to go across like that, and you can see the way my brush now is still a little bit firm, so you can kind of see the bristles making brush strokes on the canvas, on the board. Now I was hoping that wouldn't happen, but it's okay, we can just go with it. I'm going to soften a bit of this nice mauve in across and down. We can soften all of this with our soft blender brush in a moment as well, you see. So really, I suppose you need to use nice soft brushes for all of this. Again, I'm going to take some crimson, a touch of phaylo blue. I'm going to make it nice and deep over here, nice deep colour. And then I'm going to start flicking the clouds downwards, okay? You can see all the clouds kind of congregate down in this center point over here. So I'm going to start bringing all my clouds kind of over towards that. Letting it hit and miss, dance around on the canvas, or the board. I keep saying canvas, but it's the board. It's just a habit, that's all. My apologies. Let that kind of dissipate off on the board, just coming right over here. And as it comes across, it's starting to get warmer. There's a lot more red in the mix, so adding touches of cadmium red and crimson. As it comes over, I'm going to start softening that colour, and you can see it's kind of just touching the yellow here and there. I don't want to mix it into the yellow too much. A little bit more. And then we start getting some kind of rougher clouds here and there, don't we? There's some nice rich red. So I'm going to take cadmium red with a hint of cadmium yellow. and put that nice warm colour in just around here and there. And be careful going into your blue, you don't want to get any greens, so I'm going to add a little bit more of the red over here. It's pretty much just crimson, but what's happening is it's mixing on the board to the colours which are already there, so it's softening out slightly. Do you understand? I'm going to keep sitting back now, keep looking. Okay, give the brush a quick clean. Every now and again it's a good idea just to wash your brush, just to give it a quick clean. So again, cadmium yellow and some crimson, try that. That'll give us a nice rich orangey red. Look at that, that's lovely. Just putting that in. So I think the key with painting something like this is when you're coming down into the yellow colours, okay, add a bit more yellow, and when you're going up into the bluey mauvey colours, add a bit more pink, and that neutralises the greens then. It stops anything going green. Do you understand? Now I'm not going to try and paint the sky exactly as it is, okay, that would be impossible. I'm just going to make a nice representation of the scene, that's all. So let's go up a bit now and take a bit more pink in that, and lots of lovely colours. Don't worry, we will have some highlights and a few shadows as well coming into this. I'm just kind of focusing everything down into this sort of central point. Okay, now as it comes over here, I'm going to start adding a little bit more blue and some crimson. Okay, I'm going to make it nice and purpley over here. Crimson and blue. I'm going to just make it that little bit darker just over on this side, because the further away from the sun we're going, the cooler the colours are going to get. Does that make sense? So the closer to the sun, the warmer the colours. That'll give your painting a nice balance, I think. And I'm going to add a little more crimson up on here. So you can see now I'm just sort of building up my colours as I go. Just building them up. And I'm going to show you then what we're going to do with the blender brush in just a moment. Because I know this all seems very sort of rough and all that kind of thing. But just one moment now and I'll show you what I'm going to do with my blender brush. I just first want to get a nice rich purple. Some crimson and some phaylo blue. I'm going to come down here, put that nice rich plum, let's call it. Let's call it a plum. Nice rich plum in here. Soften it down. So I'm going at an angle, you see, I'm going at an angle and dragging it across then and letting it sort of fizzle out over into that colour. And go up there like that. Then I'm going to take some extra blue in this and give it just a nice rich dark colour up on the corner up here. I think it needs that nice rich colour to give us a nice composition. Cool sides and dark sides, okay? Cool against dark and warm against cool. A little bit down there. Now already you can see nice little sunset going on. I'm going to clean my brush again very quickly, and I'm then going to add some nice red to this. Now really clean your brush. You don't want any blue in your brush whatsoever, okay? Nice and clean. I'm going to start adding some cadmium red, perhaps even a little hint of crimson, let's say, and then lots of cadmium yellow. And I want to put this lovely rich orangey colour over here. Look, that's lovely now, isn't it? I'm going to soften that back over here into this pink. Just gently. Then I'm going to take more of my cadmium yellow and I'm going to start adding some nice orange here and there into some of these clouds, you see? Just a few. And down by the sun, it's really very orangey. So, we leave that for a moment. I'm going to take a soft blender brush, my big, soft foundation brush, or powder brush, as the women might know it. Nice powder brush, lovely and soft, and I'm just going to simply start softening all of this, pulling it down. I'm hardly touching the board with this now, okay? I just want to soften all the brush strokes out really. And I come over and start on the warm side to keep my colours nice and fresh. Pulling it down and swooping it across, you see? Lovely little curves on the direction. Soften them just ever so gently, okay? Just taking the brush strokes out of the board. That's all I'm doing. As it comes down, then you're going right horizontal across. You can go at a slight angle as well, just to get everything nice and soft. And then you see we can work on some highlights and all that kind of thing. So what I'm trying to do really is just concentrate on getting the broad sky in, just the basics of the sky, and then work on lights and darks and all that kind of thing. That's the plan. Let's hope it goes that way, but that's the plan. Okay, a little bit more cadmium yellow there. And okay, I think I'll switch now to a slightly smaller brush and I'm going to put in this lovely sun. I'm going to take some cadmium yellow. I think even cadmium just on its own. And I'm going to come down here and put this lovely, bright, rich yellow sun in. And what I'm going to do then is kind of pull it and soften it outwards. Basically just adding some yellow into the sky further down, okay? Now my brush is still not very smooth. My brush is very kind of rough and a little bit on the hard side, but it's okay. I'm going to start putting some nice rich oranges in up here. I'm going to take some cadmium yellow, maybe a little crimson, and that will kind of give us a nice rich orange, okay? Maybe a hint of cadmium, just the tiniest hint. We have a nice rich orange, all right? And it's going to kind of hit the bottom of the clouds, because the sun is hitting on the bottom edges of these clouds. So I'm just kind of sort of dancing around underneath, where I think, let me just focus this again, my apologies. Now the focus has gone again on my camera. This is terrible altogether, isn't it? There we go, back again. Technology is not excellent, is it? Unless of course you have the money to buy very expensive equipment. In general, the majority of phones and cameras and stuff like that are not great. Not in this day and age anyhow. So I'm just going to push a little bit of that orange here and there. Just working up my layers, okay? That's all I'm doing. And then I'm going to move into a more pinky colour, Naples yellow with crimson. And I'm going to start putting that over on some of these clouds here. You see the way it's sort of catching the lights on some of these clouds that are coming across? And if you find it's picking up the colour underneath, just give it a quick little wipe on some tissue and go back into that colour again. It's all about building up layers. I know a lot of beginners, even myself when I was starting out, I would always try to get the entire sky finished sort of in one go, because I never had the patience to take my time and build up layers. So I think that's the trick, especially with skies like this. Build up your layers nice and slowly. You'll get there, just take your time. Okay, you see, just popping a few lights on some of those clouds coming across, because we can keep softening these back in again as we need. Do you understand? With our blender brush, so there's no rush. Try not to kind of rush along, get it all done in a few minutes. Let me take some Naples yellow, and a little hint of cadmium in that. And I'm going to put some of that colour around here and there on some of these. And maybe even across the bottom here as well. I'm going to soften some of that nice light colour in across the bottom. One thing I don't want to do with this sky is overcomplicate it, you see. So I'm being cautious. I'm being very cautious as well at the same time. I don't want to overdo the details in the sky. Now I'm going to take some rich colour, some cadmium red, a little crimson, and a hint of Naples yellow, all right? Because I want to just do one thing. Maybe a hint of cadmium yellow as well. Just want to bring a bit more pink into some of these here. Just adding a bit more cloud into them, that's all. Because it is slightly richer. My board here is probably not showing the colours very well on camera, particularly with the light and stuff coming in through the window next to me. So I'll fix all this in editing, and I'll show you the true colours of what I'm actually painting, okay? So let's fill all this area in here, in between that. There's not much blue showing really, it's just a lot of rich colour, rich red and orange, pink. Okay, so now a little bit there that I'm not happy with, but fix it, just soften it out. Get my blender brush again and soften some of these back in. So you see, you can kind of soften it all out as you please. If you're not happy with it, you can soften some of them back out and keep going. And that's the lovely thing about MDF. It gives you this beautiful soft effect, so you can't see any grain of the canvas whatsoever. Really, really lovely and soft. And coming up here, pulling them down at an angle, you see, down from the sky, coming down over to that point where the sun is. Okay. Now I'm going to start adding some nice small lights. I'm going to get a new little brush. Okay, let me see. I have a new little small brush here. Small round brush. I'm going to dampen that and let's start putting in some details. Firstly, however, I will just put in my sun again, okay? My lovely rich yellow sun down here. I'm going to make it slightly bigger than what it is on the photograph, yeah? And then I'm going to go around it like this. I'm going to soften it upwards first. Okay, like that. Then soften it up with your blender brush. Then I'll go in with some real bright colour, some rich yellow first. Doesn't have to be perfect, don't worry. Okay, just like that. And then we get some yellow with some white. With some nice bright colour. And it's just a case of softening this. Just try and soften it around as best you can. And again, because we don't have any grain on the board, it's difficult to do this. But just take our time, try and soften it. Just soften the edges, that's all. That's all you want to do, is soften the edges. And if you're finding this a little difficult, you don't really need to put in the sun. You can just leave it a nice rich yellow. Maybe cover it with one or two clouds or something like that. So I'm just going to keep at this now until I get this right. I want it right. It needs to be done right, doesn't it? Well, up to a certain point. I do want it to look somewhat like the sun going down in the sky off in the distance. Oh, that's not bad, we'll go with that. Let's take a small pointy brush and let's start putting in some nice warm highlights. Just paint on its own again, cadmium yellow and a little crimson. Or in fact, let's try a little red. Let's go with a little cadmium red and cadmium yellow. And we have some nice rich highlights up there. There is actually a lot of cadmium red in this, isn't there? I'm going to take some cadmium red out of my box and put some more cadmium red here. Now this is going to be a nice long tutorial. I want this to be really nice. I really do. So let's go up with cadmium red and a little hint of cadmium yellow. And perhaps a hint of Naples yellow. I won't go with white, that'll make it much too chalky. So, nice light colour. Let's try this and see how it looks. Okay, I'll go with that just for now. And simply, I'm just simply going to just kind of dot it around here and there, just to create some highlights on some of the clouds. Okay, you don't have to be too particular now or fancy with all of this, because again, we're going to be softening a lot of this back in slightly with our blender brush. So look, you don't have to really go over the top with this. Pop one or two down here. I'm just kind of picking out some of the warm spots on the clouds, okay? And just letting my brush kind of dance around on the board. That's really all I'm doing. So you can kind of start to see it now come to life a little bit, can't you? Let's try that again. Cadmium red, cadmium yellow, and a little Naples. And let's just pop a little bit of that in here and there. I'm conscious of the fact that the clouds are kind of swooping downwards and into the painting. So up here, for example, I can put a nice one just on the edge of that and soften it in. I can put a couple over here. And remember, I'm staying away from the blue. Okay, I'm just kind of putting this on the little pinky ones that I have, because we have yellow in this and we don't want too much green on the canvas or the board. We don't want too much green on this, so I'm staying well away from the blue. I'm just putting this on the pinky tones just here and there, look. And you may find this a little bit more advanced for you, but do try. Just have a bit of fun. I wanted to do this for a long time, this painting. I wanted to really give it a nice proper tutorial. I think it deserves a good tutorial. Okay, I'm going to come over here and start putting in more of a pinky colour, so crimson with Naples yellow. And I'm going to start picking up some nice warm highlights on some of these clouds as well. And remember, as it comes over, it's going to start getting more and more pink. So I'll just give that a quick clean. And then I'm going to take some crimson with some Naples yellow. I think just those two on their own should be just enough. And get some nice bright highlights on some of these. It's slowly kind of coming together, albeit a little slowly. Perhaps pop a few little swirly ones coming down off of these clouds up here. Okay, I'm going to now soften some of these back in again, okay, with the blender brush. Just to make them nice and subtle. Don't want very, very strong brush strokes on the board, okay? I just want it nice and subtle. And this will help. I'm just about touching the board, hardly even touching it, to be quite honest. Just allowing the corner of the brush to kind of flick across the board, just to soften some of these out. I don't want to make them too kind of in your face. Do you understand what I mean? Okay, let me just have a look at this now. I'm going to soften perhaps some of these ones out just slightly. But I'm not overly happy with some of those. Okay. Next, I'm going to put in just a few very rich highlights. I'm going to take some cadmium yellow with a little of cadmium red already on the brush. So cadmium yellow and a hint of cadmium red. And I just want to give one or two nice bright highlights. Okay, so look, for example, along here. And one or two around here, just in some, not all, just some of the clouds, where you feel the sun is kind of coming up and catching. You see what I mean? And again, I'm trying to keep it simple. I'm just trying to simplify all of this for you. Don't want to make it too kind of complicated for you. A little bit up there, perhaps a nice little one up there on that cloud. And a couple, maybe one or two here and there. Again, I don't want to overdo this. And perhaps one or two lighter ones just over here and there. And some of those. So I think we'll leave the sky for now and we can just move on. We can always come back to all of this later and add more little touches of colour, okay? But I think it's a good idea not to spend too much time on one particular area of your painting. Wait until you kind of carry on with some of the other parts of the painting, and then come back, take a look, and if you think you want to change colour, change colours. Let's go across here. Now, I'm going to start with, I want to put a little row of trees, a nice little small row of dark trees as a nice silhouette. Okay, I'm going to take some cadmium red, some crimson, and let me think, maybe a touch of cobalt blue. So the rich kind of a winey kind of a red. And I'm going to simply go like this. Take even a hint of burnt umber as well. Okay, come down. Then another one sort of here. Take a little touch of phaylo. Add a little bit of darkness just here and there. Then it goes into a nice soft colour over on the other side. More of a soft kind of a grey, soft mauve kind of a grey. Coming across. And there's even a hint of one or two over on that side as well. Disappearing off over by the sun, okay? Now we'll soften all these together with the blender brush as well, so don't worry too much. And we'll come over here and let them dissipate kind of off out of the painting, okay? Now I'll just darken the one on the right hand side, just ever so slightly. And I also want to just darken this one in the center. You can see that's really nice and dark, isn't it? Let's take some burnt umber with some crimson. It really gives a nice effect, that dark section. I'll put a touch of black just up on the top, soften it down. Give us a nice kind of a silhouette. Next thing I'm going to do is just clean that brush. Just give that brush a very quick clean. I'm going to take some cobalt blue with some crimson and a little white. And there's going to be more blue in this. I'm going to come down here and put that nice blue, soft blue, just across the base of these. And I'm going to kind of soften it, kind of gently up into those trees. Just where they meet, okay? So it kind of comes across. It's all lovely and soft. Then some Naples yellow with some white over here, where it kind of softens up into the sun. So now we have a nice kind of a transition, don't we? From the sky down into the land. Then I'm going to take my soft brush and I'm going to very gently soften that down into the blue. You can see the way I'm kind of pulling it left and right just to make it nice and soft. Again, I don't want to be showing too many brush marks in all of this. I just want to kind of create a nice misty sort of a feeling off in that distance. Lovely and soft. Barely touching the canvas, okay? So there. That's not bad. Now we will come right up into this with our bluebells, so not to worry too much about the bluebells, okay? Let me see how that's looking. Put that down slightly, get us more. And I think I will just get the dark line for my bluebells in just for now. And I might call this part 1 finished, okay? So I'm going to get phaylo blue, lots and lots of crimson, a hint of white. Now it's not very, very dark. It's just a nice purple, nice soft kind of a purple, isn't it? I might take a little magenta. Let's try some magenta for a change. Let's give that one a chance and see what happens. Okay, we'll go with that. I'm going to go right up here now into that mist, okay? And I want to make sure my horizon line is nice and straight, but not too straight. It doesn't have to be perfect. I'll fill in this layer with this nice colour here, okay? And the exciting part will be coming soon, getting all these lovely bluebells done. That's going to be very exciting. Ah, that's a bit better now, isn't it? I think that's more the colour I was looking for. So I'll try some phaylo blue with lots of magenta and maybe a hint of Naples yellow. I'm even going to take some magenta and go across here with that, because that's quite nice. I like that colour. I will also, when I'm finished this, paint around the sides of the canvas, because it does look wonderful when the sides of the canvases are painted, or the board rather. I'll paint around the sides of the board as well, just with similar colours. It doesn't have to be exact, just once it's a similar colour around the edge of the board. That's all you need. So this is a nice base for our bluebells. There we go, just pull that right down all the way. There we go. Now I'm going to take a little black and a little magenta, because just up here it's quite dark, isn't it? And look, let's take some blue as well. Some rich, rich colour. So it's going to be slightly cooler and darker over here on this side. And there we go, my friends. Now I'm going to take some cadmium red and a little Naples yellow. I'm just going to go over here and give it a slightly warmer colour just by the sun, because when the sun is hitting that, you see, it gets a little bit warmer, doesn't it? Now, let's sit back and take a look at this. Okay, I'm happy enough with that. My friends, I'm going to call it part 1 finished. Let me turn this here now. Okay, part 1 is finished. I hope you enjoy that, getting there now. Part 2 is going to be really fun, getting these lovely bluebells, lots of palette knife work and fan brush work as well. So lots of texture in part 2. I could come back to this guy and maybe just touch up little bits here and there, but in general, it's a nice little sense of scene, a nice little impression of the scene. So don't go anywhere. I'll be right back with part 2 very soon. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed it, and let me know what you think in the comments below. Do subscribe, and if you wish to support me, Patreon, pop over to Patreon. Lots more tutorials over there, in-depth tutorials. So thank you so much, my friends, and God bless. Happy painting.